So I come from good morning, everyone. And I come from the land in which Mahatma Gandhi was born. So I would like to start the day with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi that live as if you were to die tomorrow, but learn as if you were to live forever. And that's the attempt, I think, that you are creating here, Dr. Manpreet, that whatever happens, whatever are the circumstances, learning cannot go away. So I'm just going to be describing some tips and tricks that I follow for a perfect smile. The standard technique, as we all know, has become quite good. And you could actually do a good smile procedure if you have such nice energy parameters. What normally I do is make sure that the patient is comfortable, has understood the procedure, that I have talked to the patient, I have seen some aspects, especially the refraction, so that I know exactly what I'm dealing with, how anxious or how uh, easygoing the person is going to be. And that also helps you to go through the procedure with the patient inside while it's going on much easily. And the standard technique nowadays is to create one incision between 2 to 4 millimeters and to be able to extract this after completely separating the lenticule right at the edge of the incision so that you can easily remove it. So that's what the standard, you can see this is a very thin lenticule. Sometimes it's difficult to grasp. And I wash on the surface so that you can have a good ironing, which helps in the next day recovery. So what is next important is to have a good centration, because a good centration is very important in this particular procedure where your lenticule is refractive. It's different than creating a flap where if the flap is slightly decentered here or there, it would not really have any impact on the final outcome. So centration has to be learned the best. For centration, what I normally do is not start or not put the speculum in till the patient is quite in focus. And he's only about 5 centimeter or so away from the cone. Then I put the speculum in and I tell the patient to look at the green blinking light. If the green blinking light is close to them and if they can see it, then the chances of it moving and their eyes moving and creating differential hydration on the surface and everything goes down. Since the eye was closed and you open it, the tear film is also present there enough and you would not get dry eyes, dry spots or black spots. When the patient is looking straight ahead at the green light, you would also know where your visual axis is. So in myopia, there may not be a big difference, but in hyperopia or when you are doing those cases where sometimes there is a big angle kappa, you would want to also focus and do on the visual axis, and it's possible to do if you pay careful attention to where that green light is and where the patient is looking. Once the patient is looking at the green light, you get the cone up and I don't do a complete applanation immediately. So the white ring and the green light should be in the center of the pupil or where the light reflex is. And once you have 3/4 of the applanation like this, then you can have the suction on. And I always check with infrared immediately so that in case I am not having a good centration, I can immediately release and refix it. If you wait too long, it would go in the same footprints and then you would have the same decentrations occurring again and again. So it's better that you check immediately, and if you have any doubt, just leave it immediately before you actually go ahead. Then while the treatment is going on, it's very important to prevent the suction loss. Suction loss would happen, as you pointed out, because the suction is not, it's a soft suction. It is not really holding your eye too tight. And that's why the patient can also see the light till almost the end of the procedure. But it has a flip side also, that if the patient is too anxious and starts to blink or starts to move the eye or the head, then you can have a suction loss. So a good idea to prevent a suction loss is to, of course, have good anesthesia so that the patient is comfortable. More important is to have vocal anesthesia throughout the procedure. So you keep talking to the patient, divert them, tell them about your experiences, ask them about theirs, and tell them not to speak, but at least keep listening, keep telling them that there is going to, you are almost there, that there is only 15 seconds left, and then you start counting backwards or you count with them. Do whatever you can. Tell them to think of a happy moment in their life. By the time they actually can think of the happiest moment of their life, the 25 seconds that you have to pass would be over, because if you ask them about the sad moments of their life, they'll be able to counter a lot of them within a few seconds. But happiest moment, you have to really think. And that is the time when the procedure gets over. So it's very important to keep talking to the patient during the procedure. Today, it's the whole thing has become much easier because they are faster lasers and the suction is also pretty good. Initial days, we had to adjust that, and initially the laser was also taking a little longer. But nowadays, it's very, very easy to have a prevention of suction loss. In case suction loss occurs, it's not really a big problem, as the next speakers would point out to you. Once there is a good treatment done, then we come to the initial separation at the incision site. It's important that you take the patient on the, we are lucky to have a operating or a surgical microscope attached to this laser. And therefore you get enough depth of focus as well as the working distance, which generally lacks when you are doing a excimer laser procedure. And therefore, it's very easy to find these planes. It's important that you're doing it as quickly as possible when you have the bubbles also there to guide you. Then it's very easy to find these. Once the bubbles go away, it becomes little less easy because there is no guide. It looks like a normal cornea almost. So try and do it as quickly as possible. Get the patient in focus. There's also a slit lamp attachment, so you can make use of that on the surgical microscope if you find that you are not able to find the planes well. So what I do is I open the entire incision, then I enter on the left side of the incision in the upper plane and the right side of the incision in the lower plane. And you can see two distinct planes occurring here. And you would find that when you are in one plane, you cannot go to the other without much resistance. And therefore, which is known as the stop sign described by Dr. Ramamurthy. So that really helps. Once you can quickly find these initial planes, the whole procedure becomes absolutely smooth. Because then you have to just free the lenticule. For freeing the lenticule, you first enter the left side where you have created the upper plane and then the lower plane on the right side. And usually you'll find that you are not in the wrong plane at all. What you have to make sure is as soon as you start separating, make sure that you are not finding a lot of resistance or a line developing. As you can see here, I'm in the bottom and you can see a line of separation developing at the lenticule edge. If you find that that line is developing, you stop immediately and don't go ahead and free the entire area, because it would mean that you are in the wrong plane. Also, it's important that you are using your instrument as a fulcrum at the center and not taking it side by side horizontally. So you should have the center in the center of the incision and the instrument should be moving side by side. I'll just play it once more. So I'm entering in the center and then turning my instrument and not taking it only side by side. And it's so like a windshield wiper. And you would find that the separation is very smooth. And also you would be able to find your planes easily. For separating the lenticule and not allowing it to fold on itself, it's important to leave behind some tags at the edge, which you can then remove. See, I'm going and removing the last tags at the end so that it doesn't fold on itself when you're going to the other side. And finally, you grasp the lenticule at the edge and remove it, followed by a thorough wash and ironing of the cap. Ironing of the cap is very important because that leads to a good visual recovery. I generally don't go in and wash. If I find that I have handled too much or entered too much, I go in and wash. And at the end, I just make sure that the incision is getting dabbed like this so that there is no open area from where the fluid can egress in, or if the epithelial cells can grow in. So it's a very simple procedure, but meticulous meticulous attention to details is very important. And there are now different lenticule extraction techniques that one can follow. This was the standard one. Lenticular scissions, you are not separating the planes, but just making only the initial incision and then grasping the lenticule and removing it without, I think we are in short of time, so I'll just not go. And you could also do lenticule peeling if you find that the separation is not happening very easily. So you can grasp the lenticule and remove it like a capsulorhexis. So I'm trying here to separate, but I could not. So I'm just holding it. It's an unedited video, I'm so sorry. You can hold and peel it out like this. Here you should leave and grasp again and again, and you can actually remove it like this. And you could use a rescue instrument where if it is stuck to the top, you could go to the end of the instrument, and this is a special instrument which can just peel it out from the undersurface of the cap like this. So thank you very much, and I'm sorry I extended my time a little bit.